So a few days ago, I was talking with someone and I asked them about the Trump assassination, what they thought of it. And that person said, "Oh, it was just a 20-year-old kid that was acting alone that shot at Trump." And I was like, "Are you joking now, or do you actually believe that?" And they said, "Well, I don't really want to look into things because it's just too much to look into, and I'm not one of those crazy conspiracy theorists, so I just don't want to look into it." So I want to stick to the facts. Here's the official story so far. A random 20-year-old acting completely alone walked within 150 yards of a presidential candidate a campaign rally with a rifle, climbed onto a rooftop in full view of Secret Service snipers, which is not exactly true on that point, set up his shot and fired without anyone intervening and with no help from anyone. This 20-year-old is also politically radical as to attempt an assassination, and yet not radical enough to have ever posted any political writings or commentary on any social media site ever in his life. He also wrote no manifesto and left behind no indication about why he did it. His last and only political act before attempting to kill the president or Republican candidate was to register as a Republican. You must believe this and ask no questions. Day after the event, FBI believes Trump rally shooter acted alone with his father's AR-style rifle. So no real investigation has happened as of yet, as of this post, and yet the FBI is already saying, "Oh, he did it alone." You just need to believe that. We haven't really finished our investigation yet, but he acted alone. Did you know that America is virtually the only country in which assassins act alone? Basically, every other country on Earth, if there's an assassination attempt, it's a group of people that have tried it or done it, depending on what happened there. So America is just so different from everywhere else in the world, and our would-be assassins are so much better than everybody else in the world because we are just better, that they can go up against the Secret Service and take out their target, or almost take out their target, without any help from anyone. You just have to believe that. Well, here's Senator Ron Johnson with his preliminary investigation, which kind of goes against the FBI. Let me show you. This is on Maria Bartiromo's show on Fox News.
My staff immediately started reaching out to local law enforcement. We've gathered a fair amount of information. Again, we're just scratching the surface. But a couple of things that we found out. For example, the Secret Service did not even attend the 9 o'clock security meeting with local law enforcement. Pretty well put in charge the Butler County law enforcement to coordinate things. Law enforcement wasn't even on the same channel.
So that was just to be clear, Senator, that was a 9 a.m. meeting on July 13th, the day of the shooting.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, Secret Service had been there for site visits, weren't even there. Kind of turned over some of the outer perimeter stuff to local law enforcement. They weren't even on the same security channel. So the sniper and SWAT teams weren't on the same channel as the patrol officers, and they weren't on the same channel as Secret Service. So they had to relay things. One of the things we found out is that we've got a more detailed timeline. This picture is now on the internet, but a photo was taken by the local sniper team in the AGR building at 5:14 of Crooks. So again, we had pictures of this guy. Why wasn't he intercepted? There's so many unanswered questions here.
The pictures were taken at 5:14, and he was shot at 6:11.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, we've got a more so I'm going to be issuing a preliminary report. It's preliminary. It's just scratching the surface. We're primarily going to release that report to solicit more eyewitness testimony. If you took video, save it. Make a backup copy. We can glean things in terms of audio and in terms of where the shots came from. Was it one rifle? Was it more than one? I've seen some pretty interesting video on the internet by experts that certainly calls into question what the FBI is telling us about a single shooter. Again,
so an easy way for the FBI or Secret Service or whoever was there on the rooftop initially to dispel that rumor of there being multiple shooters is just tell us how much spent brass was up there on the roof with the shooter. How many shell casings were there from the rifle? Were there 3? Were there 5? Were there 9? That would indicate, well, because Crooks, the accused assassin, we are assuming he did it. He didn't have chance to pick up his brass before he got shot by the counter sniper team. So whatever he shot should still be laying there on the roof when the investigators showed up there to start taking pictures and things like that. So just releasing that information would dispel most, if not all, the theories of second shooter, inside job, things like that. There would still be questions as to how a 20-year-old kid could get into that position and take the shot without any outside assistance. But at least we know that there wasn't a second shooter or anything like that. And just releasing that information, I don't see that hurting the investigation at all. So just release how much brass was on the rooftop with him, and maybe the caliber, because I'm assuming all of it should be .223 caliber, which I'm assuming, again, I don't know what gun he was using. They say AR style. Usually that's .223 ammo. So if it's just some .223 spent brass up there, perfect. We know exactly how many shots that rifle shot at that point in time.
And we're only just beginning this, but it is so important that people who saw things, that have information, they preserve it, they memorialize what they saw, because memories change over time. They can be influenced. So it's good news. On a bipartisan basis, Chairman Blumenthal and I are dedicated to taking transcribed interviews with law enforcement and public, just members of the general public that were at that rally. No matter how insignificant your piece of information might be, it might lend to provide the full story of what happened, because the American public needs to understand what happened here. So
I know that, I tweeted out yesterday the fact that you're doing this bipartisan investigation, and I put on your email. You have an email that you want people to send information to, and I know that you'll tweet that later. But I got to get to this. After the shooter was taken down by Secret Service, the local law enforcement, and I know this from some of your preliminary comments, your preliminary findings, started taking pictures of the dead body, right? Can you tell us what happened then?
Correct. So that sniper team that was in the AGR building, they're the first ones that went up on the roof. They were the first to encounter the dead assassin at that point in time. Later on, other people joined them, and somebody told them to send the pictures they had taken to an ATF agent, which I think is very strange. And
so that was a guy in a gray suit that went up on the roof with them. And the question that I have is, why was ATF there? That seems odd. Maybe he's a Trump supporter and he just wanted to see Trump speak. But why would ATF start getting involved in this type of a investigation? Weird.
We called up that ATF agent. That individual said that he was with ATF, and now he's gone dark. We've also reached out to the Secret Service agents in charge on the ground. All we're getting there is the runaround. So we are getting information from local law enforcement, and we appreciate that. But unfortunately, federal law enforcement agents, they're just saying, well, go through your congressional liaison. Again, that's going to be unacceptable. I wish I could rely and have faith in the FBI and the Secret Service to do a truthful accounting of this, but that's not been my experience with the Russian collusion hoax. And for years, dealing with federal law enforcement, we need completely separate and independent investigations, and it has to start now.
So are you questioning whether or not there was a second shooter? Is that what you're questioning, or if the shooter had a different gun?
I saw an extremely convincing video online. I know it's all over the place. There were 3 distinct shots early on, followed by another 5 in more staccato, more rapidly fired, and then the final one, which we believe took the shooter out. How do you explain that? I don't know. I'm not an expert. But the individual putting that video out says it clearly shows that there were at least 3 different weapons fired that day. Again, I don't know, but we can't trust the FBI and the Secret Service to do an honest and open and transparent investigation. That's just a very sad fact. So we've got to rely on other sources independent to really find out what the truth of the matter was on Saturday, July 13th.
So, yeah, there are some questions that have not been answered that need to be answered. So here's a video of the guy in the gray suit. At least I'm assuming this is the guy that was mentioned by Senator Johnson. Who he is, or whether he's really, we're struggling to understand how he is connected with anything. Again, if this is the guy that they're talking about, but the way he's communicating with these law enforcement officers, it lends credence to him being the guy that was on the roof with them. So, well, that's the wrong thing. Secret Service honchos denied Trump additional security for 2 years before assassination attempt. Why would they not give an ex-president additional Secret Service security for up to 2 years before this? I shared this in a previous video, but Benny Johnson was trying to get Secret Service stripped from Trump completely. And Biden refused to give Robert F. Kennedy Secret Service protection, even though there were a few credible threats to Robert F. Kennedy's life. And there were rumors that the reason why Biden was doing that was not to harm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but to drain his coffers, to make it so expensive for the protection of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that he couldn't use that money on his campaign. I think he was spending like $500,000 a month in protection services. So it's pretty ridiculous what's going on in politics related to just protection of presidential candidates. So there's been some questions about the police and their rooftop confrontation with the alleged sniper. They said that they one policeman boosted the other one up to the roof. He lifted himself up, got muzzled by the would-be assassin, and when that happened, he understandably let go, fell back down, and jacked up his ankle. So this guy, whose name is Greg Smith, he actually is one of the eyewitnesses that talked with the BBC about crooks crawling up the roof and then yelling to the police to try and get somebody to do something about this before the shooting actually happened. He said that he didn't see the police doing that at all. Again, timelines might be a little bit different. That interaction with the police might have been minutes before Smith actually saw him, possibly. But if that's the case, why was there no communication between the police and the Secret Service at that point in time, letting them know that that happened? There's video evidence going from the time Crooks got onto that roof until he had the rifle in his hands. So we know that the police weren't doing anything with him as of that point in time. Now, I want to go into the audio of the shots, because it is very interesting, and this is purely evidential. There's no guessing as far as this goes. You listen to it and you can draw conclusions from that. Your conclusions are your own, but the evidence is the evidence. So let me play this.
Quality of the first 3 to the next 5 to the last one. Okay.
So you could hear those were slightly muffled. Those were not. And then the thump at the end, which I'm assuming that was a counter sniper rifle. And again, these sounded a little bit muffled. These were really quick and not muffled, and you can actually see that in the waveform. These hit the high and the low a lot harder than these did. So again, if you're firing a rifle, every shot that goes through that rifle is going to sound the same, unless you move your rifle or move the listening device to different locations, because sounds might be different in those different locations, possibly. But Crooks wasn't moving in that 2-3 second interval, and the person wasn't really moving in that 2 to 3 second interval. So all of those sounds should be almost identical, but they're not. Why they're not? We don't know. If they can get a lot of audio files from different locations in that area and they can triangulate where those sounds are coming from, then we'll be able to know exactly if there was just one location that all those sounds were coming from, or if there were 2 or even 3 different locations. Well, definitely 2 because of counter sniper and Crooks, but if there was potentially a third. Again, triangulation of those sounds would make that possible. I don't have that expertise, but I'm sure there are people that do. And again, a better understanding of why those first 3 shots sound so much different from the next 5. That would be something very interesting to find out. So I'm going to move on to right here. Okay, so this is Jerry McCulloch. We're bringing this up because those second 5 shots, the second grouping of 5 shots, that was very fast. So we're going to look at Jerry. He is the world record holder for fastest shot.
Oh my God. All right.
2.99.
That's Jerry Michalek. Okay. Here's why it's important. Turns out Jerry just happened to have a video out there showing how fast he could shoot 5 shots out of an AR style rifle. So this is the world's fastest. Let's start here.
A 55 is kind of slow at this range, so I'm going to listen really good for that timer, get in the center and punch out 5, see if we can make it under a second. Here we go. Now that was a little bit better. You saw how I was punching out right on the timer there. Let's take a look at it. A .96. Made it that time pretty easy. So, all right, 96. We had a 15, a 12, a 13, a 12. So we're running good splits. We made the time pretty easy. Let's go back and look at that again. Total time of 0.96 hundredths. Let's go downrange, take a look at it. Okay, guys, we're a little over 5 yards here.
5 yards.
Stop, 5 round.
Yeah, five yards between him and the target. And I don't know if you can see right there, but right there, that shows the grouping at 5 yards. And again, Crooks was 150 yards. So that's 30 times the distance. Imagine the grouping at 30 times the distance, and at relatively the same or a very similar speed, very fast. Again, he's the world record holder. His aim is really great, even though he's going that fast. How fast can you go and be accurate?
It's most accurate, fastest shooters has that kind of a spread at 5 yards. What kind of spread do you think we're going to be seeing for a kid, as the null hypothesis goes, that this was a 20-year-old kid who wasn't reputed to be a very good shooter, in fact, kind of a bad shot, according to the shooting team that wouldn't have him in high school, but maybe he improved and, got better at range, and we don't know that, but we'd have to go talk to the range people he was at. Maybe he improved, but even if he improved, this is the world's best right here. There's nobody even close to this guy. And I think you can see that the idea of ranking off 5 shots as fast as you can, well, they start to spread. They just, it's very hard to keep that all contained.
So let me go back to right here. This was the speed of which he shot that. So that's 15 hundredths of a second, 12 hundredths of a second, 13 hundredths of a second, and then 12 hundredths of a second. And then if we go forward just a little bit, right there. Okay, so these are the speeds of the shooter in that second grouping of bullets. 25 hundredths of a second from the first one, so that was not incredibly fast. But then the next one, 18 hundredths of a second, 17 hundredths of a second, and 15 hundredths of a second. That's getting close to being world record type speeds. And again, we don't know the grouping on this, but this is really, really fast shooting. Different sound from the first grouping, and a lot faster. All 5 shots were in about 3/4 of a second. So that's bam, 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 bam. I don't know if I've tried to shoot that fast, but that's pretty dang fast. Anyway, so going off from the shooter and on to the issues with the Secret Service. So this is Director Cheadle. She's been surrounded by a bunch of congressmen and senators at the Republican National Convention, in which they are yelling at her and asking her questions in very, very angry tones, because they're concerned that this major foul up of the Secret Service led to the almost assassination of the president. This should not have happened. So they yell at her for from the moment this video starts until here. So it's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds where they're just really going at her hard, just trying to get any information from her. And she's like, this is not the right position or not the right place for this conversation to be had. And they're like, okay, well, let's go to a different locations and have this conversation, because this conversation does need to be had. So she starts walking, and then the congressman, and she's walking quite quickly because the congressmen have to run to catch up to her. And they surround her again while she's walking and keep saying, hey, this isn't right. this isn't right. You need to tell us about this. What happened? Why did these things happen? Where was the break in the chain of custody of this that caused this screw up to happen? And they just kept on chasing her and chasing her and chasing her, and she
protection for crying out loud.
Went through this door, and Secret Service prevented the congressman and senators from calling. So definitely felt like she was not ready to answer those questions. So today, on the 22nd of July, she went before Congress because she was subpoenaed to do so. And there were a lot of congressmen in there asking her for some very pointed questions, including some Democrats that actually made some good points. A lot of them were saying, oh, we need to take all guns away from people because guns are scary. But like AOC, she actually made some good points as to why, or questions as to why this happened and why Director Cheadle isn't giving any information about this. So this is Representative Pat Fallon, and he had some interesting things to say about the slope of the roof debacle, saying that Director Cheadle's assertion that the slope of the roof was a problem and that's why they couldn't have anyone on top of the roof was just plain ridiculous. Now let me play it from here.
Enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts. That's rhetorical. So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812, you can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. You want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life, was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas. We recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey Comparator's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof. You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to guarding Doritos. Mr. Chairman,
Go back to guarding Doritos. She does have 26 years of experience in the Secret Service. She left the Secret Service to go work for PepsiCo and heading up their security for a while. But 26 years of experience, you would think they'd be very well skilled in their job. So here's Representative Anna Paulina Luna, in her conversation with Director Cheadle.
Director Cheadle, can you please give me the names of the individuals who are in charge of your con-op for the rally?
I'm not going to release names.
Can you give me the
today.
titles? And how
No.
many individuals?
No,
Nothing?
We had a full advance team that was responsible for advancing
How many
the site.
people are the final approval authority?
There are a number of people
Can you
that
give me a
are
number?
engaged in approving
Can you
the
give
plan.
me a number?
No, I do not have
Okay.
a firm number.
Can you just confirm whether or not, I understand this is an open investigation, but in order to dispel conspiracy theories, have you guys been able to subpoena the shooter's Discord records, or has the FBI, to your knowledge?
I believe that the FBI is working on those.
Okay. Is it factual to say that you have not ruled out that the shooter was working with other people or persons?
Again, the FBI is conducting the criminal investigation into
Can
the
you,
shooter.
at least in an effort to dispel conspiracy theories, can you confirm or deny that?
At this time, we do not have that there were any other people engaged.
So you believe he's acting alone?
I do.
Okay. Have you been made aware of multiple eyewitness reporting that there was a second shooter on a water tower?
I do not have any information related to any second shooter.
Okay, the reason I asked that is because according to testimony from multiple witnesses, they did report that. And again, to my understanding, there were over 40 sniper teams that were briefed by the Butler ESU. And I want to make sure that people are aware, if you're saying that there's not another shooter, that we are able to clear that information, because from this whole entire briefing, it doesn't seem like much information has been able to get out to the American people. So I'm trying to dispel rumors, as I'm sure you understand.
And that would be wonderful. All I want is the truth. If I'm looking for, or if I want some fiction, I'll go read a fiction book. I just want the truth, because I would prefer not to have conspiracy theories running around about a second, third, fourth shooter, aliens coming down and abducting people. I don't care about fiction. I care about the truth. And that's all I'm looking for. So when misinformation is spread about people on a water tower, or people on a sign, or people other places, the shooter being seen here and there and everywhere else, it's really unhelpful, and it actually harms the information that people are sharing, because all of a sudden this little bit of information is actually incorrect. So the entire story becomes polluted because of that one kernel of incorrect information. And that's why it's so important to stick to well-known facts and build your case upon that, instead of having little bits here and there. Someone on the water tower, there are eyewitnesses about that, but there's no hard proof there's no proof at all. All there is eyewitness accounts that they think they saw someone on the water tower. So that may be true. It might not be true. Again, I don't know. That if we could have someone shoot from the water tower, maybe shoot some blanks or something from the water tower, and see how that sounded, I'm assuming he would if it was an inside job and they were trying to have the patsy take all the blame, he would probably be shooting the same rounds. So shoot an AR-15 from the water tower and from the roof, and see how those different sounds sound, how the rifle reports sound from those different points. If that was done, that would greatly help with the investigation. But again, we need to stick to facts and not rely on conjecture. And because they're not providing facts to us, more and more people start theorizing.
Was it true that Secret Service was present at the Butler ESU briefing?
There was a briefing between the counter sniper teams that were working
Secret
on the
Service
ground.
Present?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay, I want to read you a report from people that seem to be throwing you under the bus and stated that they were in attendance and that Secret Service was not in attendance at the security briefing, according to individuals with knowledge, to also include that the AGR building where the shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks was located was actually not a part of their security perimeter for that. So there was not Secret Service present. It seems as though that when you were asked earlier from Rep. Kristamorthy about whether or not Secret Service was aware of a threat, you had said no, they were unaware of a threat. And yet, according to communications, again, from law enforcement that were in some of these group chats, they actually had reported that Secret Service was made aware of a threat at around 5:59 p.m. as a part of the command, including Secret Service, aware of messages and requests about information about the suspect's location. Can you please tell me if you have knowledge of that at all?
Again, I think we're conflating the difference between the term threat and suspicious.
But you guys did have knowledge at 5:59 p.m. according to those group chats, did you not?
Of a suspicious individual.
Okay. Chairman?
Yeah. And I really hate how she's like, oh, threat versus suspicious individual. What did they do to check on that suspicious individual? Someone that had a rangefinder, someone that was up on a roof, someone that had flown a drone over the fairgrounds earlier in that very day. Oh my gosh. If we could just get a little bit of information from this woman, maybe people wouldn't be jumping to so many conclusions.
In my opinion, according to some of the testimony today, I feel that you have perjured yourself in some instances. And so I'm going to ask for a full review of the transcripts by staff. And if you find that to be the case, I do ask that you bring perjury charges against the director. I will say this, it is very frustrating, and I've talked to my colleagues and we've said it to your face, that you have been up here basically stonewalling our ability to get the answers to the American people. And what I will also say is that every single member of Congress does not feel safe with you in charge.
So I'll end it there. Yeah, I listened to a bit of the testimonies from a few of the, or questions from a few of the different representatives, and her response. And she would not give a straight answer on basically anything. And it was pretty ridiculous. What one question that was asked of her was, have you been there? And she said no. Even though there was an assassination attempt on the president, she never decided to go to the site herself to see what was happening, or at least not within 72 hours of it happening. She might have gone after that. I can't exactly remember on that. But Josh Hawley did, Eli Crane did, quite a few different representatives have, because either photo op or they actually want to get down to brass tacks on this and actually find out what is happening. So here's Eli Crane. He is actually on the roof of the AGR building that the shooter was from, or the shooter shot from.
All right, guys, I'm up here on the building where the...
Now, this tree right here, that is the one that is was shielding the shooter from being seen from the sniper teams. So as you can see, pretty dense foliage, which would make it incredibly difficult for the snipers to see him before the shots were fired.
Suppose the sniper took a shot. It's not that steep at all. We just had a 70-year-old man back here climbing.
And where this guy is, that either there or just a little bit further is where Crooks shot from. And then there's the water tower in the background, which would definitely give it a much higher vantage point if there wasn't blockage from the Jumbotron or whatever else might have been possibly blocking their vantage point. But again, we don't know. There hasn't been any evidence one way or the other about that, other than eyewitness accounts saying there was someone up there.
Up on the
and again, that roof, how steep does that roof look? It's ADA wheelchair compliant. It's not steep at all.
On the roof, easily. See that water tower behind me? Had Secret Service or anybody had sniper teams up there.
And again, yeah, if one of the two counter sniper teams would have been up there rather than both of them on buildings right next to each other, that would have been a huge game changer. They would have seen him with no problems whatsoever. And that's one thing I hadn't even thought about. Why I might have said it previously. Why wasn't there a counter sniper team right there? One there and one on those buildings, and everything would have been covered perfectly. And then one more video of his that I wanted to share. So this is from within the second story of the AGR building, overlooking the fairgrounds and also the roof of the AGR building from which the shooter actually shot. So again, this is where the one counter sniper team was. The second one was either on this one or that one. I don't know where the second counter sniper team was, but why were they there rather than on the water tower? Water tower would have had a perfect view of this entire roof And this guy had a perfect view of most of the, or all of the other side of the roof, and kind of had his view blocked from this side of the roof up till the peak, and also the tree was blocking that portion of the roof. But the water tower would have given him perfect view of the entire roof. And yeah, the counter surveillance team or the counter sniper team could have seen him from the second story AGR building, but they would have had to really strain their neck to try and get down to where he was actually stationed. So whether or not they could have seen him, that's kind of questionable. But again, counter sniper team on the water tower would have solved everything. So either it was a colossal failure in planning on the part of Secret Service, or something more nefarious. Were they inept, or were they complicit? And that's something I won't be able to answer definitively without more evidence. And if the FBI hadn't physically washed the roof and washed away evidence, maybe other people could have found that out. I don't know what evidence the FBI has, but we might not ever know. Kind of like the JFK assassination. Do we know everything that happened there? No, because a lot of those records are still sealed 75 years later. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today on this. If you found this interesting or not, please let me know. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to give you more information later. Thanks.